Hello and welcome to the London United Filmmaker Podcast. My name is Gregory Randolph. I'm a writer and director from Boston, Massachusetts. I currently live in London, where I attended the London Film School. This podcast is an opportunity for me to tell you about emerging filmmakers currently active in the UK from around the world. Today, I have Juri Ferri on the podcast. Juri is an Italian director and filmmaker. We discuss the making of his grad film, Meidagen, in the Netherlands, where he has family ties as well. We also discuss several films he has made since Meidagen. Juri is a previous student governor of the London Film School as well. Enjoy. Juri Ferri, thank you so much for being on the London United Filmmaker Podcast. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. It's a busy time. Plenty of things to do. So yeah, I'm happy to be here this week. It's a good week.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it sounds like you're super busy. Mm-hmm. And I've got a list of things here. All the work you've done in just a very short amount of time. So I'm really excited to just kind of get into it and learn a little bit more about your filmmaking, where you're from, and what inspires you to make films. So just as a little introduction, we met through the Board of Governors. You were student governor at London Film School before me.
Yeah, I was indeed. I think a couple of student governors before you.
Yes.
But we did try to keep that line of communication going down to successive student governors to give a bit of feedback and advice. And I think it was quite nice to meet with you and others that were in that position.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd be remiss to not talk about Kamal Akhtar, who is very, very passionate Board of Governor, previous alumni of the school, who really was kind of kept us all together. Was always kind of streamlining student interactivity with the Board of Governors. Board of Governors at London Film School is often making decisions that kind of affect the whole school, and they lean on the student governor to get the students' perspective on things. So yeah, it's an important role, and I was very, very proud and happy to be a part of it. And yeah, I got to meet some really cool people. You, Reese, Peter Hoganson. It's a great group of guys that run it. And Eleanor now, who's currently on the Board of Governors, student governor. So that's how we met. And I was just I watched your grad film Meidagen last night, and it was really fantastic. A wonderful World War II film, discussing the Dutch perspective on the war, which was really fantastic. So we'll chat about that. But with this podcast, I usually like to start at the beginning and learn a little bit about what got you into filmmaking, maybe something that sparked when you were young, maybe a little bit about where you're from. Would like to start there, and just and then from there we'll kind of go into the future.
Yeah, I'm from Bergamo in northern Italy, from a small village actually, just outside Bergamo, and it's a really beautiful part of the world, but it's also very industrious and industrial. It's the typical Bergamasque people are very work-minded, and there's not a lot of space for the arts, and there's not as much creativity going on there, which is interesting. And just saying this to start off with, but basically, I grew up in this small village, and none of my family are in the artistic world or in the creative industries in any ways. But yeah, I was in touch with cinema from a very young age. I think the first film I ever saw in the cinema was Toy Story. I don't know if I remember it very well, because I must have been 2 or 3. But obviously, from a very young age, my parents took me to the cinema, and my grandparents as well. In particular, my grandfather, he really loved movies as well, and we used to go all the time. He will be the one taking me when I was young. And the kind of setting that was most common was in the small villages, small community-run theaters. They're kind of attached to the Catholic parish church, basically, as a community activity for the village. And this was still a time when you would be seeing films in the village. I sound very old now, I'm not that old, but it was still in the 90s. You would still get the films in the big cinemas first, and then 6 months later in the smaller cinemas in the village. So that was basically how I grew up in in touch with film. But obviously, I'm 31 now, so VHS was a big part of me growing up. All the Disney films were very foundational, and so to say, I've always had an interest in watching films. Pretty early on, I think I was in my teens, I thought, it would be great to actually be involved in making them. And I think that came about when DVDs were first a thing, and bonus features with behind-the-scenes documentaries were part of it, and I was really keen on watching those. Particularly the Star Wars DVD releases with the big, the original trilogy behind-the-scenes documentary that was made. It was really fascinating for me when I was 12, 13, and that was already in the back of my mind back then. But obviously, I've always been very undecided about my future. Back then, I definitely didn't know what I wanted to do for a very long time. When I graduated high school, I sort of had the idea, I actually would like to do something in the film industry, but I still don't know. And I decided to move to the Netherlands, and I studied at a small liberal arts college in a town called Middelburg in the southwest of the Netherlands. And the reason why there's several reasons why I went there, and I think one of the main reasons is that part of my family is Dutch as well, so my grandmother is Dutch, so I already knew the country, so it was quite familiar for me, and it was, it felt like going to a new place, but a familiar place at the same time. And the kind of education that was on offer there was, let's say, inspired by the American model of a liberal arts college. So compared to an Italian university where you have to pick your specialty and kind of just do that, I could study different things. And I've always had this broad interest in the humanities. I've always really liked history, and it reflects a bit on my films, I think. And that's what I studied there, basically, sort of a broad humanities, liberal arts, picking different subjects as my arts and humanities major. So I did a bit of history, musicology, music history, and media studies, because I wanted to study something about film as well. So I did some courses in film history too. But that still didn't really solve the problem of what I wanted to do in my life, because it kind of postponed the problem. So when I got to my final year, I didn't really went into further study right away. I took a gap year. I did an internship in a research institute. I didn't realize then that I didn't really want to pursue academics per se, as much as I liked. If you want to, study humanities, that's often what's the path in front of you. Like, you can do a master in history and maybe a PhD afterwards. But didn't really appeal to me. And at that point, I said, I want to make films, and I'm gonna just try doing it. And I didn't really know how. I mean, to be honest, while I was at university, my bachelor, I was quite involved with the little student filmmaking society. So we were making like little films and videos, and I was dabbling a little bit in it, obviously not really knowing what I was doing. But eventually I knew about the London Film School, and I thought, I think this is the right place for me, because I have always been undecided about what I want to do in my life, and this is the kind of film school where I can study different things in the film industry and get an all-rounded understanding of all the various crafts that go into it. So it seemed like the right thing for me, and I said, I'll just apply and see where it goes. And I got in, and I moved to London, and pretty much everything followed from that. So LFS was a really good time. I really enjoyed it there. I learned a lot, I think. People are very ambivalent about LFS in many ways. Not to speak badly of it, but obviously there is ups and downs, pros and cons. But overall, I think it was a very, very good time for me. I learned a lot in a very short time. It was quite impressive. I got the chance to direct a Term 4 film, which is 35mm black and white in studio. And it was my film UB13, which caused quite a stir at the time, because we were building a submarine set, and it was quite ambitious in many ways, and the whole film school seemed to be enthralled by it. Like, I've never seen so many like random people from staff and management coming by the set just to see it because they were curious, because rumor had been going around that some crazy students were building a submarine in stage D. And I've heard that still nowadays they present it as an example of at least a well-accomplished Term 4 film. The other thing is that it was in German. I don't speak German to add ambition to it. I actually pretended I speak German for a while because I didn't want them to forbid me from making it in German, but it seemed the most appropriate language to have that film in. And and basically by the end of it, I realized that I thought I was an okay director. Actors really enjoyed working with me. The film turned out okay, and the moment of shooting it was just great, and I felt really in my element, and I thought, okay, I want to do more of this. But yeah, this was in 2017 when we shot it. It was beginning of my second year. It feels like not so long ago, but it still is a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. So Juri, I that's amazing. Like I get such a sense for where you're from and you know your study at the liberal arts school in the Netherlands. It's one of my favorite places. Like it's just, I don't know, there's something about the Netherlands and some of the cities there that's just there's like a peacefulness to it. It's an absolutely beautiful country. So I can see why you'd want to go and
Definitely,
explore.
Particularly Middelburg. It's a tiny town. It's in a very rural province. It's away from all the big cities. It's a good place to study as an undergrad because you're just away from distractions. At some point you do feel there's a cultural lack there compared to being like in Amsterdam or Rotterdam, but it was fine for me for 3 years.
For sure.
When I moved to London, it was a big change because obviously London is a big city and it was my first time living in a big city. But it was, great time as well to experience that. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, it sounds kind of idyllic out there. Good place to kind of, that liberal arts. I had the liberal arts education as well, and there's a well-roundedness to it. You're allowed to explore different areas and make a decision about the kind of specific discipline a little later on. And then London. London is completely a different channel, and it sounds like you nailed what you wanted to do. You know, so I'd like to talk a little bit about UB13. Sounds like it was a great experience, and that really sparked like a desire to want to continue to write and direct. So I'd like to talk a little bit about your grad film. Meidagen.
Yeah, Meidagen, yes.
Meidagen. So can you tell me a little bit about the story? Can you tell me a little bit about some of the highs and lows of making it? Just in whatever depth you want. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just kind of curious. You know, this film you made in 2020. So it's had quite some success. New Renaissance Film Festival. It won the festival best history, and it was the winner of the festival. Is that correct? Or?
Well, it was best historical film, basically. They had the category, yes.
Veterans Film Festival got the Red Poppy, so it has some it really, and I really enjoyed it for what it was. So I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so it connects back to what I was saying about Middelburg and Zeeland and my experience in the Netherlands, because basically UB13 was a film set during the First World War in a German submarine. So that kind of got me thinking about war films. Not that I only wanted to make war films, but it kind of got me in the process of thinking about war films. It was also the year that Dunkirk came out, which I thought was an excellent film by Christopher Nolan. And kind of thinking about this, I realized that my great-grandfather, so my grandmother is Dutch, and her father had served in the Dutch army in Zeeland, which is the province where I ended up studying later on. So there was this connection. He was not from Zeeland, he was from Utrecht, but he had been in Zeeland for that time. And he had written a memoir of his experience in the Dutch army. And it was really interesting because that was the last part of the country to be invaded by the Germans in the southwest. So the Dutch army basically sat there. The war was happening elsewhere. They were evacuated eventually from there, went to Belgium, and ended up in Ostende, which is on the Belgian coast. And it was a situation very similar to what it was in Dunkirk, basically surrounded by Germans on all sides. So that's his whole story, is him being stationed there, then ended up in Belgium, in Bruges, and then in Ostende, and then his return home. I thought that, and I read that memoir because I was interested in learning more about him and about his experience of being in that same province where I had lived for as well.
And the name of the memoir is
he basically just called it Experiences During the Second World War.
I see. Cool.
It was never published. It just circulated among the family. so I thought, well, there's definitely a film here somewhere. The experience of living a war without actually fighting, while the fighting is happening elsewhere, and you're sort of expecting your fate, and expecting your fate, and see what will happen. And the way he processed it all in his book was really interesting. And I wanted to capture a bit of that in film. And obviously I couldn't do the whole thing. That would have been a multi-part series. But I tried to like pick a part of it near the beginning and try to turn it into a short film. And that worked. It seemed to fit very well with what I was interested in at the time, and I'm still interested in. It fit with me wanting to go back to where I had studied, kind of closing a circle there as well, going from Zeeland to London and back to Zeeland for this film. And it spoke to my connection to the Netherlands, which goes deeper than the fact that I studied there, is because of it's the country of my grandmother as well. So there were all sorts of emotional reasons why I wanted to make this film. And yeah, basically when you are making a grad film, you are a fool and you don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
And you do something that you would never do if you actually knew what you were doing. And I just basically made it happen somehow.
Nice. Yeah.
So
especially I feel like when you're shooting the film in another country, that adds an element of difficulty sometimes, and kind of it can really make the film, you can elevate the film in quite a way, and you have some lovely beach moments, and some of the landscape photography of it is just very, very nice, and it gives you kind of enriches the experience. So yeah, I really appreciated it. Just watched it just last night. So
it was a very, very busy time, because I was basically in the Netherlands for 2 months for pre-production. Came back to London once in between, but I didn't really have a place to stay. I was driving around a lot because a lot of the people and resources came from Amsterdam, but we were shooting in the southwest, 3 hours away. I was going back and forth a lot, and it was a very taxing time. And the film shoot was difficult in many ways. So it definitely, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it definitely was very, very good learning experience. And the fact that the most important thing, it was, we've got a film to make, and I'll make it. I'll make it happen. And it's sometimes I look back at it and I think I could have done things differently. I could have done things better. But at the end of the day, it's a film, and it tells a story, and it works. And then it did go to a few festivals. It was also the year, it kind of came out just before the pandemic started. So the distribution of that got all jumbled up, with festivals being cancelled or postponed, and loads of them going online. So things might have been different, maybe had it not been that time. And that also coincided with the end of my time at the LFS. I basically had my grad show in January 2020, and then the pandemic started, right after. So it was a really interesting time to be a fresh film school graduate and not really knowing what to do next.
So you got out of there right in time, I guess, before things really hit the fan. Wow. Okay, fantastic. I've got a little sense of your grad film experience. I want to talk a little bit about, you've done a little producing as well, and you produced a film called After a Room by Naomi Pacifique. Very interesting film. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so this was right after I'd done Meidagen. I was the only one, I think, in the LFS that had any experience of filming in the Netherlands at the time. So Naomi came to me and said, I've got this project and I want to shoot it in Amsterdam. And she also has family connections with the Netherlands, and in particular with Amsterdam. She had a location there, like a family home, that she wanted to use because it was important for her. And so I got involved, and I was keen to help her out. And she wanted to shoot on film. I was keen to do that as well. My Meidagen was also on 16mm. It's a very different project from the things I've made in many ways, and it was a very personal project to her. So it was quite an interesting experience to step back and be able to say, this is Naomi's project. I'm gonna take care of the practicalities and the logistics for the most part, and obviously be a creative support as well, but to let her do what she wanted to do, and let her explore and create what was a very, very sensitive and personal story, if you want to call it like that, because it's quite an experimental film in many ways.
Right. It's the part of it is a relationship oriented thing.
Yeah, and she put herself on the screen as well, so she's she's in the film, and because of that, I thought it was important to be the kind of producer that shields her away from worries that would impact her concentration and being able to explore herself and her film. Obviously, I wasn't the only producer, and she also was involved in practical things because you have to with a grad film. But yeah, I was very glad to be involved with it. It was an interesting experience. We shot in Amsterdam. This was right before the pandemic started. In fact, we were talking about it then, and the lockdown started right after the end of the shoot. And we were shooting mostly night. So we were in Amsterdam and kind of living a bit of a vampire lifestyle, working at night and sleeping during the day, and all living in the same house when we were shooting. So definitely really interesting experience for a film like that as well. And that film then did very well. And the following year, 2021, we went to Locarno, and it won an award there. And that was... I'll be honest, I was actually a bit surprised.
Yeah.
But I was pleasantly surprised that it happened, and that was a good experience too.
Very cool. Can I ask you, did you learn Dutch as you were growing up? Because you're...
Yes. So I grew up bilingual pretty much, even though I never really I really never had any education in Dutch. And even my university degree was all in English. So I never really learned how to read and write properly, let's say. I would speak it. But then when I was studying in Middelburg, part of my education I had to take a second language, and Dutch was on offer. So I did take the chance to just deepen Dutch, and I took a couple of courses. When I got to make Meidagen, it was quite hard because it's not my first language, and I was directing in a language that was not my first. And but I was really keen of doing my best to not just that the film was spoken in Dutch, but I was working in Dutch, speaking in Dutch with my producer and with the actors. And after doing it for a while, obviously it's easier to switch into it, and it will probably be harder for me to start speaking Dutch right now. But for the context of having spent a couple of months in prep and getting to it, it worked quite well. And so I do speak it at a working level.
Cool. Okay, that's really cool to hear. I was just curious. So my next question is about kind of going past the grad film, going past films you did at London Film School. I'd like to hear a little bit about the film you made. Well, you got married.
I did get married, yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
that looked like a lovely wedding in Italy, Bergamo.
Italy,
Were you
yes,
in?
Indeed, in Bergamo.
Amazing, man. I'm sure it was absolutely beautiful. Congratulations. So you've got married and you've made multiple films since London Film School. So that's my next question, is asking you a little bit about the film you completed. And this was, maybe just tell me about it, because I don't want to say anything that's misconstrued. I'd just love to hear about you kind of the maybe since graduation, since you know after Rome and what happened after Rome.
It was so since graduation it was basically COVID times,
right,
and very turbulent times in many ways, and it seems bizarre to look back at it. So I didn't really have a job for a long time because of lockdown, and I wanted to do at the time was I thought I could work as a camera assistant / videographer on corporate-y things and do a bit of that kind of work, freelance, and keep developing my own film on the side. So I did a bit of that before and after the pandemic. During the lockdown, I did spend quite some time writing. So I wrote a feature script and a short, which was L'Olandesa. So this was back in 2020 when I wrote the first draft. This was me. The L'Olandesa is a story set in Italy, set in my home village, and it's loosely inspired by my grandmother's experiences. So it's about a young woman from the Netherlands that moves to a small Italian village in the north of Italy in the 1960s after marrying an Italian man, and it's about her experiences of moving to a new country, relating to a new culture, and particularly the way that she was seen as a foreigner and a bit of a disruptor in the time being such a tight-knit community, such a, in many ways close-minded community as well at the time. So loads of ideas and stories that I had heard from her about this experience, and I wanted to try condense that. But it went through several stages, and it also went through life.
Yeah.
Like finishing film school. Film school is great because you have one sole purpose, which is, making your films. And particularly when you're doing a grad film is great. You have no excuse to do anything else than focusing on a grad film. Then afterwards, you really need to try to slot that in other things. And, inexorably you have to pay rent every month and bills every month. And I didn't, again, as I said, I've always been the kind of person that never really knew what to do in life, except directing films, which is hopefully one day will be a sustainable career. So I did various different things, and I ended up working in the art department. And this was through in various ways. So it was Wood is the head of production design at the LFS in my time, Matthew Button, then stopped teaching and went back into working full-time, working as a production designer. One of my course mates and kind of closest friends at the LFS who I'd worked with before, Newbie 13, Andrea Vigoni, he had started working with Matt as a assistant art director pretty soon after graduating, because he had already kind of understood that he was good in the art department when he was a student. And at some point they were doing together a series for ITV called Tell Me Everything, and they needed an art department coordinator. And Andrea put my name forward and said, Juri is very well organized and quite thorough and good with numbers, apparently. and he would be a good person to do this job. And that's what I started art department coordinating. And then I kind of fell into it. I've never really had much of an interest to work in the art department. As in, when I was at the LFS, other than directing, I was really into the camera department and lighting, and I did a bit of DPing as well for grad films. So I never really had much of an interest in working in the art department, but I kind of fell into it. And it was the right job for me, because the second show that I did in 2022 called Criminal Record for Apple TV, I managed to strike a deal with the designer and say, I'll work 4 days a week. And then I have one extra day to pursue my personal projects. And this works well enough for me because I have a little bit of money and a little bit of time. Just because working in the film industry is in any position is so absorbing. Yeah. That you don't really, if you work in the film industry, you don't really have time to develop your own projects unless you do it in between jobs. But then it's just a very erratic and very hard to organize thing. So a lot of 2022 I spent working on Criminal Record and trying to get L'Olandese made. And at first I got in touch with an Italian producer, worked together with a production company. It was a whole thing for me to go back to Italy as well. That was one of the main purposes of that short, was to put myself a foot back into Italy, having studied in the Netherlands, studied in London, then made a grad film in the Netherlands and never really done anything in Italy. So I managed to expand my network a bit in Italy, and we applied for funding, national Ministry of Culture funding, like the main film funding body in the country for public funding, and we obviously didn't get it. But we still spent a good part of a year just preparing for it, just preparing the whole, laying the foundations with a production company to then actually do the application, and then writing all the application and preparing it, and then actually submitting it, and then actually waiting months for a reply. Yep. So a whole year went by just doing that. When we heard, it was the beginning of 2023, we heard we didn't get the funding. I said, well, we cannot, it's a short film. I've already waited 2 years and nothing really has happened. We need to make it happen somehow. So what I did is I went back to the script and I reduced it. I reduced it to the bare bones. I took away some elements. I made the casting a bit smaller, less locations, less pages, so we could shoot it in 4 days. And it still had some challenges, which I'll talk about. But
what did you reduce it? What was it at page-wise?
Yeah, so it was quite a long short originally, some 20 pages, maybe 21. Went through various drafts, and then I said it must be no more than 14 if I want to shoot it in 4 days. It's just because it's not going to be affordable otherwise. And then again another 8 months went by trying to gathering funds from various people that said they wanted to support me, and doing a Kickstarter as well, and putting some of my own savings, which, having worked a bit for the previous 2 years, managed to put together. So in the summer of 2023, we shot L'Olandesa, and that was a great experience too. And what was really good about it is I managed to expand my network into Italy. I worked with an Italian producer, Luca Ferrara, and we had a very good experience together. And in fact, we are still working together, and we'll probably keep working together for a very long time.
And how did you connect initially?
It was a common friend that I met working on another random thing that I did at some point during the pandemic. Was I worked as a gaffer on a independent horror film in Germany for 5 weeks. And one of the people I've met there was also Italian. At some point told me, well, I know this guy, we studied together at Westminster Film School, but he's from Italy, from Brescia, which is not far from Bergamo, and he's also, at the time I was also making a World War II film, and you should connect. And I thought, well, definitely we should. And he's also writer and director, but he mainly wants to be a producer, and so he does both. And he was really keen to actually work with me, because he was keen to learn how to apply to film funds and all of that. And obviously he's doing, he has learned now. He's doing it a lot more now. He's ended up working for the production company that we then together contacted, Okie Dokie Film, which is the main, there's not, as I said, there's not much creative things going on in Bergamo, but there's one production company called Okie Dokie Film. They're doing quite a lot in Bergamo, yes. And they, I guess, they make most of their turnover by making ads, but they're really keen on filmmaking as well, and particularly documentaries that have a few that are developing and that I've made in the past, but also short films. They were quite keen to support my film because it was local and an interesting project for them.
So Juri, my question is can you tell me a little bit about what the production was like making that film? Can you tell me a little bit about maybe some of the experiences after it was finished, and some of where it appeared in festivals? It appeared at the Rome
Rome Independent Film Festival.
So let's start there.
Yeah. So there's a couple of challenging things about this film. The first is that the lead character is Dutch. Is a Dutch woman living in Italy, and she's meant to speak Italian, but she's meant to be Dutch, so she had to speak Italian and Dutch. So thanks to the connections that I already had in the Netherlands and the help of the producer that did my grad film, I did a casting in the Netherlands, and I managed to get a Dutch actress, Juri Ferri. She's really amazing actress. She doesn't speak Italian, so she had to learn her lines without actually knowing what she was saying, obviously, but without really knowing the language. So that wasn't a challenge. The second challenge is that the film rotates. It's the story of this couple, this Dutch woman and her Italian husband, and they have a 2-year-old son. And the main conflict in the film is that the husband is looking for work. He goes to a local parish priest to ask for help. And he said he will help him, but only if they get their 2-year-old son baptized in the Catholic Church, which she doesn't want to do because she's not Catholic, and kind of a matter of principle for her. So it creates a conflict in this relationship. So the 2-year-old was quite central to the film, and they always say never work with animals and children, and what is the third one, boats, or something like that. And it was quite a challenge to work with children. In fact, I say children because we got twins to be able to swap them over and have longer day on set. And both of them were, very difficult. Because they wanted their mom, which makes perfect sense. When you're 18 months old, you don't want to be in a film usually. So lots of screaming children for 4 days of filming, and lots of exasperation from the crew because it just slowed down a lot our process. But at the end of the day, people, the fun thing is people see the film and they ask me, how did you make the children cry? Because it's such a powerful emotional moment. And I said, the problem is not making them cry. The problem is making them not cry. The problem is for them stopping to cry because they were just crying all the time. So a little bit of cleverness, if this child had to look at his sort of a POV of the mother looking at the child and the child screaming for her, we put his real mother behind the camera, and he will just look at the camera and like, yeah, just cry and like want his mom with him, which was exactly what the scene was about.
There it is.
And
did you shoot digitally or
we shot digitally?
Okay,
yes.
okay, fair enough.
Film was always the plan. I mean, I love 16
Yeah,
mil and
something
always,
you can cut out, I guess, if you're
but
looking.
yeah,
at
when we were really trying to slim down the budget as much as possible, I just couldn't justify shooting on film, unfortunately. Particularly because I was getting free equipment through the production company, so we got free digital camera.
Can I ask you, when you did your grad film on film, 16 millimeter, did you find that expense to be, because I'm always a little bit questioning. I know that film costs more than digital. I know that this case, but I know hard drives cost money, and it isn't like it's free to shoot digital, you know. So what was the expense you found? How many rolls did you use in your I know this is more of a technical question, but
I think we shot 9 rolls for my grad film.
Pretty good.
So that's about about 90 minutes.
Did you find that to be a burdensome expense?
I think it worked well for my grad film for various reasons. First of all, I said I want to do it now because I know it's gonna be a lot harder to do it later. And
right.
I want to get that experience.
As a student, you can sometimes get favors from
exactly. So on camera rentals, we got a pretty good deal because the camera rental in Amsterdam was very keen on us shooting on film, and they were very supportive sometimes. So we got a camera package for very, very cheap. The lab was also quite helpful with the lab also offered a good deal. This was
in Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam, yeah, half a film Amsterdam. A very good lab, very good experience with them. So so the total cost compared to what the whole grad film costed is actually doesn't feel that much, because it was a difficult film to produce in many ways. All the logistics of getting people to Zeeland, that was very expensive. Accommodation, catering. It's a period film, so production design and costume. There was a big, like loads of extras and so it was probably over expensive for being a grad film. But at the end of it, when you see all the numbers, the film cost doesn't really make that much of an impact. When it came to L'Olandesa, it was actually a lot smaller, the budget in total. So in proportion, it was good. More. And the deal that the deal I had on L'Olandesa was different. So this production company that was supporting us have a equipment rental attached to them, and they were supporting us in kind by giving us free equipment. And if I was getting a free camera from them, I couldn't really justify having to spend money on shooting on film. And the other thing was that on grad film, I worked with other LFS students and other volunteers from the Netherlands, other film students, people that came and worked for free. For L'Olandesa, I was actually keen to pay my crew, and I thought it was an important step to not just make this as a very expensive hobby, but to actually foster a professional environment. I was very keen to offer not a very, not the standard, not the going rate, but at least a symbolic fee to everyone that worked on it. Which, on balance, if I hadn't done that, I would have shot on film, but also maybe I wouldn't have had a crew.
Yep, fair enough. These are the types of questions that are always going through an emerging filmmaker's mind. I mean, it's literally threading together, what are the significance of these specific things that I need versus, like, at the end of the day, what I want to do, And I think what you did is smart, to cut corners in some areas, not cut corners, but to cut costs in some areas, to provide the crew with some type of monetary, that's important. That's very important.
Yeah,
it's the most important, is that people feel like their time is worth something.
So Luca, who produced L'Olandesa, directed the film just last week, called The Old and the New, and I produced it.
Here in London?
In Italy.
Okay.
And that was just a different approach. He was really keen on shooting 16mm. The whole project screamed to be shot on 16mm, and there was a whole rationale behind making it. Not really, but it was one of the main rationales behind making it. And he said, I have a lot of friends in various departments, and they're all keen to shoot on 16mm, and various ones of them owe me favors and such, and they will all be happy to work for free for the experience of shooting on film. So he decided to direct more costs to the film part of it and have a volunteer crew instead. So that's perfectly feasible as well. It's just depends how you want to set up your production, and that worked well too. It was a really good experience, and and there was obviously involved producing it, so it was nice to see that happen as well.
So with L'Olandesa, can you tell me a little bit about the experience of once it was completed? Just tell me about the experiences of kind of distributing in it and just some of the successes. I'd love to hear about it.
So it's only just started. It's only
Okay.
been to one festival so far,
Sure.
so hopefully more to come.
Yeah.
I'm working with a distribution company, Pathos Distribution, and I actually had done that before with Meidagen. Wasn't very successful, but mainly also because of the pandemic, kind of put them in a bad spot. So it's an interesting experience to work with them, because you kind of advocate, like you kind of let them deal with the festival distribution, and I think in terms of like trying to get the film into Italian festivals, that works quite well because they have a lot of connections and contacts. So, as always, we try, you always try to go for the big festivals first. And when that doesn't happen, you kind of trickle down. And we got this premiere at the Rome Independent Film Festival, which is a really quite nice festival. It's been going for, I think, about 20 years in Rome. And that was the first one. And now the film has had its premiere and is ready to go out into the world. And let's see in 2025. This was November 2024 when it premiered. And let's see in 2025 what other places it will go. And I hope there will be a UK premiere as well, and a Netherlands premiere, and hopefully other countries. But we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm sure it will. I wish you the best with L'Olandesa. So can I ask you, I've got a great idea for your experiences after London Film School, making this film, and some of the work you've been doing. Can you tell me about currently what you're preparing? I know you have another short film lined up. I'd love to hear about that, and just any other kind of future endeavors.
Yeah, so I'm directing a short film in just over a week, which is scary. I've never had such short time to prep something. And it's a project that came about. It's a really good opportunity for me, because it's the first time I got asked to direct something that wasn't written by myself. And that's a rare opportunity for young directors, I think, because it's quite a big responsibility, and usually people don't give it to you so easily. So this came through somebody I met working on L'Olandesa, who had been developing this cultural project. They got a cultural, in a very broad sense, they got a cultural grant from one of the local regions in Italy, not specifically a film fund, but a cultural grant. Mm-hmm. And the idea of the cultural project was they had an open call for screenwriters from the whole of Italy. They selected 6, invited them to a residency in the Alps. This is funded by the Trentino province, to the province of Trento, the Trentino region in the Alps, in the northeast of Italy. So these 6 screenwriters were at this residency for 10, 11 days, and they had all sorts of activities, which included connecting with local stories, local folklore. They met elderly from the local village that told them local folk tales. And then the idea of, from this connection between the youth, and they're all relatively young screenwriters, and the elderly, and connecting with the territory, they would write together a short based on local folk stories. And so a short came out, written by these 6 writers collectively, called El Mazzarol, which is based on a folktale from that region about a kind of evil creature that lives in the woods and kidnaps young women. And then I wasn't involved at this stage. This was all happening without me knowing that it was happening. But later on, the people behind this project contacted me and said, "We really enjoyed your work on L'Olandesa. We thought we like your directing, and this film has some things that make it look the right project for you, and we would like to offer you to direct this." So
how did they get your contact?
This is somebody I work with.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so the first AD on L'Olandesa was also doing, like, he does all sorts of things, and he was doing this project. And Luca Ferrara, the producer, was also involved in it, and various other crew members. So it was sort of came from the same network of people that worked on L'Olandesa. And so I got this phone call in August. I was very excited. We didn't do anything about it till November, because the whole point was me meeting the writers in person at a second residency for a couple of days, workshopping the script, and then sort of slowly prepping it and shooting it sometime in the spring. But because of the bounds of where the funding comes from, which is this cultural grant, the project actually, in theory, had to be finished by the end of 2024. Mm-hmm. And they got an extension, so it will be finished. It will be finished in 2025, but it needs to be shot before March.
Sure.
So between November and February in November I heard, it actually needs to be done the first weeks of February.
Wow.
So because I'm working in the art department again, and I have still that deal where I'm working one day off a week, sorry, I lost my
no, it's okay. Because you're working in the art department, because basically you're talking about how it's you're kind of squished here, just getting ready, getting prepared for, because
Exactly.
you heard about this opportunity when again?
In the summer, so the end of August.
And then
I didn't really do anything about it because the whole point was me waiting to meet the writers and workshop the script, and it got postponed till November. And then in November, when I finally was there to do this, they said, actually, we have to shoot in February, so we don't have a lot of time.
And remind me where in Italy you'll be shooting this again?
So it will be in the Trentino region.
Where they kind of conceived the
exactly,
idea for this.
Yes.
I see.
So the whole film is set in a mountain hut in the Alps. So it will be a single location up in the Alps.
Wow.
And in fact, February is great. I'm hoping there will be snow. There's no snow on the location at the moment, but I hope it will snow between now and next week.
Absolutely.
Because aesthetically, that will be quite a nice thing.
You haven't been able to recce.
Indeed. No,
you have.
No,
Oh,
I haven't. I haven't. So.
Will you go there and shoot?
We'll be there 2 days before the shoot.
All right, that's your recce.
So I've seen plenty of photos and try to shortlist based on those. And the DP managed to sneak in a 40-minute recce at some point in between, that he was already traveling to Italy for another project, and he managed to go there for a short time. So yeah, there's it feels like there's not a lot of time left and there's plenty still to do, but I'm very excited, and I managed to close the cast just last week, and very excited with the cast that we got. So we've got a good cast, we'll have a good film, and we've got a very good crew as well. So amazing. I've managed to replicate most of the head of departments of L'Olandesa. I thought it was a winning team in many ways. It was a good experience working with all of them, and we have such a short time to prep. I need to be able to work with somebody with whom I've worked before and with whom I have a shorthand, and that I can rely. And so we're doing that. So Andrea Vigoni will be designing it. Piero Cioffi will be the cinematographer.
Oh, lovely.
And it will be the same editor as well, Marco Ferrara, and the same sound recordist. So quite a few of the same crew members will be. And interesting enough, maybe I should mention this before, but Piero and Andrea, the DP and designer, are also from LFS. So and so I really quite appreciate that I've managed to expand my network, and now I know I have contacts in Italy, and I'm getting asked to direct projects there, but I still get the chance to work with people I've met at the LFS, and that experience is great because we feel on the same page in many ways, and it's really easy to work together because we have had the same kind of training and the same kind of experience, and having worked together now for many years, it's great to be able to keep doing that, and I hope I'll be able to work with them many more times.
Absolutely. That's how many days of shooting is it going to be?
It'll be 3 days.
All right. Amazing. Well, I wish you the best with it.
Thank you.
Yuri, I feel like I've got such a good idea for even experiences kind of coming up. Is there any other it sounds like you've got great work in the art department here. It sounds like you've got a great project coming right down the line. Any other projects or any other things you want to talk about in regards to kind of the future, as far as what you're looking to do?
Yeah, I'm really hoping to I would really like, as much as I've enjoyed working in the art department, that's always been a temporary thing for me, and I would like to move away from that, and I would like to move my career into being a full-time director and actually make a living out of that, which is the hardest step for every director, and the one thing everyone has their own way of actually achieving that, but I'm trying to be more intentional about it. So one of the ththings I am doing this year is I'm part of a mentorship scheme with Directors UK, which is called Inspire, and I have a mentor who is called Francis Annan. He's as a director, he's made a film called Escape from Pretoria, and he's got multiple projects coming up too. And one of the purposes of me applying to this scheme was I would really like to move forward with my directing career and really get the insights of how can I be a self-sustaining full-time director, So I don't really have an answer to that yet, but that's the direction I want to move into, and I'm hoping this mentorship will help me move in that direction. So I'm hoping to get, we've only really just started, but I'm hoping to get some insights from Francis on how to do, how to move in that direction, and get the chance to shadow him on his upcoming projects, and get a better sense of what a director working on longer or working on features does. And the other long-term project that I would like to work on is keep developing the story of L'Olandesa and make it into feature film. And that was always in the back of my mind, because the story is so rich. There's so much I could explore, and it is very personal and based on my grandmother's experience, and have much I would like to explore. I purposely self-restrained myself for the short because I wanted to not get distracted by what the story could be, but try to tell the most effective short possible. So I haven't really specifically been writing the feature version or thinking even too much about the feature version while I was making the short. But now that the short is finished and out there, I would really like to dedicate some time developing the feature film. So I've started doing that, and I'm hoping by the end of this year to have made some progress with that. And hoping to keep working with all the people that I work with on the short, and particularly the production company I work with. I hope we can keep working together. And there's no formal agreement yet, but I will definitely be going to them with this script as soon as it's in a better shape.
Well, I mean, what a great summation of kind of your career. I feel like we've really covered a lot, and I just thank you so much for sharing some of your recent work, and I'm going to have links to where people might be able to find your website, and just social media if they want to reach out and just learn more about your filmmaking. Juri Ferri, I just want to thank you so much for being on the London United Filmmaker Podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was great.